Four people with four unique stories on one mission to disassemble corporate brokerage one bad suit and tie at a time. We are the Rebels of Real Estate.
Oh man, here we are again.
What's up,
Podcast
everybody?
Number 3. What's
Hey, how's it going?
Yo. Glad to be here.
In it to win it.
We appreciate y'all coming back to listen to us.
We here.
And our nonsense
Let's do this.
and our madness.
The ramblings.
Do we want to talk about rebellion? Are you ready for these questions?
I've been a rebel since day one.
I can barely hear myself.
Since coming
You
out
can't
of the
hear
womb.
yourself.
I'm like whispering.
You
Trying
want
to-
to?
trying to
Check the
use my
levels
inside-
there,
I'm trying to
Ken.
use my inside voice right now.
The
Ken.
levels are good.
I won't boost
You want?
my voice.
Do you need a Red Bull? Just kidding.
I'm going to drink the Starbucks and shut the F
So,
up.
so let's talk about the rebellious stuff. Because what does it look like? What does rebellion look like to you as an individual?
Start it off, Adam.
I think for me is not following the crowd. Doing things different, or being unafraid to try things that maybe are not the norm, that you think or personally feel that could be better, in the end. And I think not being afraid to do that, I think that's rebellion. I think, and I think we show that a lot in this business.
Yeah.
Good answer.
I've been I've been a rebel since I'm young. I never, ever listened to anyone, which is a problem. It can be a problem. I never listened to a teacher, never listened to my parents. I was always what I wanted to do, which can get you in trouble, right? But I think as an adult, it makes it, and doing this, what we're doing now, I mean, it fits and it works, but yeah, I've never followed a rule, and rules are made to be broken, and I guess it's unfortunate in some ways, but fortunate in a lot of ways.
Right.
So
You got to push the barrier sometimes.
I've always pushed
Right.
the barrier in everything, with music, with even being involved in like subculture stuff, music, and I've never been one to follow the path that everybody else is doing.
I always think it's funny because you have to do that for change, right? And to grow. But yeah, it's frowned upon to be rebellious in a lot of cases.
True that. Yeah, I mean, I can relate exactly to what Corey said. Like, my whole life was doing whatever the hell I wanted to do to a fault, right? And it was probably not till like my 30s where I'm like, man, this is a really big advantage in the business world. And instead of taking advantage of it for the good, I've always taken advantage of it for the wrong reasons, right? I've used it to manipulate my way through life, like to be able to get ahead, but only far enough ahead that I felt comfortable so that I can fall back and screw up so that I can find something else to be, to do out of the status quo. So, I think now what being a rebel means to me is pushing the boundaries, doing it differently, thinking about how we can be different all the time. And I'm still a rebel. I do a lot of things that your typical corporate person, so to speak, or a person in our position typically wouldn't do on their free time, but not illegal stuff, but just in general. Like, I live, I think, a freer life than most people probably would in my position. But I think doing it tactfully and doing things that aren't going to hurt anyone else, but letting people know that it's okay to be different, right? Like, it's okay to not be in a suit and tie. It's okay to show up to meetings and dress down with your tattoos hanging out. It's okay to, just be different. I don't know. Like, that's to me what a rebel is. Like, we are all naturally like that, though. That's what I think is cool. Like, it's not forced. Like, we didn't wake up and say, we have to be the rebels of real estate. Actually,
That's true.
1000 Watt is the one that called us that, if you guys remember. So they did a meeting with Adam and I, and then they did a Zoom with Corey, and they just listened to us talk. And then they said, this is who you guys are. I mean, we didn't even dub ourselves any of this.
We didn't see it. We
didn't see any of it.
I called us the Robin Hoods of real estate early on.
Oh, I remember that.
And then they, in our discovery, said you guys are like Robin Hood, which I thought was cool because they saw it in us too.
Yeah.
But
Robin Hood without the tights.
Yeah, I mean,
I
they
think-
really
I
dubbed
think
all of it.
For me, it's about showing my kids too that you don't have to. My kids and everybody
Right.
else, you don't have to be in that stereotypical box that everybody
Right.
else is in.
You don't have to conform.
You don't have to conform. Yeah, and I don't. I wanted to pave that. I want to pave that way for my kids so that they can see. Okay, I can do things
Right.
way I want to and differently. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
suit. Not saying that suit and tie is bad because I wear a suit and tie occasionally, but
You look good in a suit and tie, guy.
thank you. So do you.
It's nice to dress up once in a while.
Yeah, when I feel like it, right?
Right.
When I want
When it's
to.
on your terms.
Right.
Right.
Business on your terms.
Exactly. I mean, for me
Business.
too, I think I can relate to what everyone said. And for me, it's a fierce independence. Like I've always been very, very independent, even as a small child. And my dad was 18 years older than my mother. So he was part of the silent generation. So very like old school, hated that I wanted to climb trees, hated, like I kept saying, I want to race cars. I want to be in NASCAR. Like I would watch it and he's like, no, he would get so mad at me. And I'm like, why? So for me, it's always, I've wanted that independence. And, you know, it hasn't been that long since women have had independence. I mean, even when I was a child, women still couldn't have bank accounts in their names. So
That's crazy.
yeah, I know. When you think back, it's not that long ago, right? Like, and so I guess that's why I've always been like that. I didn't want to be told no, and I hated being told no. And I still think back to people who are like, "No, you can't do that. I'm gonna prove you wrong. Prove you wrong."
That's the motto of my
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. It's funny because you mentioned kids. So I've had, in the last week, I've had really good conversations with both my kids, 14-year-old and 16-year-old. And up until, I think it was Sunday night, I really worried about my 14-year-old son because he's me. Like,
That's the scary thing.
and the
man.
bad part of me, not the bad part, but just like the super ADD, the rebellious, the thinking for himself. Like, but we had this really dope talk and he was like, I'm like, Dylan, so what do you want to do? You're all over the place. Like, and he's like, Dad, he's like, I'm going to go to Florida when I turn 18 and graduate. I'm going to move to Florida. He was like, and I want to work on a boat and I want to take people out for fishing charters for a little bit, get my real estate license because Florida, you can make a lot more money than you can in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. He was like, I'm going to start investing in real estate. I'm going to be a real estate agent down there. And he was like, and then I'm going to buy my own boat and I'll do fishing charters on my own. I'm going to buy a garage because I love cars and I want to work on cars, like, and have a garage. So like he just had this whole like, and to me it was like a green light went off or a light went off because I was like, he has that same entrepreneurial spirit. And he kind of realized
and he's gonna make it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just not. It's just not what everybody else.
Right.
It's same thing. What you're talking about your son, Keone, is. I don't know, how old is he? He's 12, and we're going into that attitude and that kind of I don't give a shit attitude, and also like school is he's starting to go the other direction in school a little bit. I mean, he's still passing, but he's not killing it. He hates it. I understand that, but as a parent, you feel like you're supposed to push your kids the way that the world says to push them, and go to college. And he's probably. I would love for him to go to school, and I would still like to push him to go to school.
Dylan's not.
But I don't know that he is. I don't know that he is for real. And I asked him the other day, I was like, well, Dad, I want to work with you. He said, I want to work with you and do real estate. But he also wants to work on cars. So that was the other thing, as a 12-year-old. So it's hard. Do you push your kid to follow that status quo when for myself, it would have never worked. And they're cut in my same image, man.
Oh, yeah.
So do you push them that direction when it's never going to work? Or do you allow them to spread their wings and do what they want to do?
You know what's super weird is that, so Maddie is the spitting image of Rainey. They're like identical, and
it's weird.
Dylan and Keone are identical. It's really strange. So like Maddie, like I just had a conversation with her, right? So she knows she's going to school for business. Mm-hmm. She's in macro right now and absolutely loves it. Like she's flipping out about macro and all the stuff she's learning in it. And then like last night, she's like, Dad, I'm gonna major in business. I'm gonna minor in marketing because marketing is extremely important, and I know that I need to learn marketing so that I know that the marketing department does their job, right? So like just like her thought process is so much different, where it's like structured, but like understanding the entrepreneurial side of it, but from a structured standpoint. So like she has what I don't have, and that's that like. It's okay to use the structure to get the knowledge to be in the position you need to be in, where I just fought that. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of cool. And I know Rainey's the same way, right? She's like a 4.4 or 4.5 GPA.
Has never struggled in school, busts her butt. And I said to her one time about her playing basketball. She was a great big in basketball. And I said, why are you not? She doesn't want to play. She was done. Yeah. Like, she's like, Dad, school's my sport. Like, I mean, I respect that, and she kills it. She kills
Going
it.
back to all the kids though, and I think this is also a factor. They are seeing things that we did not see as kids.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also a factor in them. Right. We broke the cycle. It's like they're actually witnessing their parents being successful in what they're doing and how they've done it. And it's not been a perfect path for all of us. I mean, I went to college, but I didn't finish in 4 years. I mean, after 3 years of playing volleyball in college, I was done. And I'm like, why am I doing this? I don't even know what I want to do with myself. So I didn't finish my undergrad for 10 years because I walked away from school. I was like, I'm done, like, I don't even know what I want to do. Let me go figure that out first. Right.
Did horrible. I mean, I was really not even present in high school. And, once again, I got my life together and wanted to do something and make something of myself. Going back to college, it was a struggle. I had to learn, 7th grade algebra all over again, right. And learn the stuff that I didn't pay attention to in school, but I did it, and I did it on my own terms, and I, financed my way through school, and
right.
It was non-traditional, but it can be done, if you want to do something with your life, and that's, what I did.
I took courses. I think 6 not real estate courses. What am I talking about? College classes, and I did okay in them when I took them, but I hated school. I hate school.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Actually, the older I got, the more
I can tell you the street is where I learned more than anything. I mean, living in Baltimore, learning how to deal with people, and also the hustle that I kind of ran around in when I was young I learned way more in that and dealing with people than I ever could have in college.
Right.
It's weird because
which is good and bad.
You just touched on something, but now that I'm older, now that I'm like, I'm old, I'm like, now I yearn for knowledge. Yeah. Like, I'm actually looking at different college courses to take now, because now I realize I kind of regret not having that knowledge, right? Like, from when I was younger, because there's a lot of things I think that we struggle through or that we have to learn while we're doing it that I think that we wouldn't have if we would have taken that kind of path at some point, which, I never regret anything, so I'm not regretting it. But I think that now that I'm older and I see that when we're in business, like, it's kind of, you laugh at like all that stuff, the knowledge and the business courses and all that. But then when you're really in business, like we are right now, then you see the need for it. You're like, and for me, I want to know, because I don't want anybody to take advantage of me. That's how I look at it, right? Like, I don't want to be in a room. I like to be in a room, and when I'm in that room with other people, I want to know that they don't have one up on me, right? Not because I want to be better, but because I'm never going to let anyone take advantage or take what I've earned. So for me, it's that competitive, like, man, they're smarter than me and they know more than I do, and that pisses me off. So I need to learn. So that's kind of where I'm at now, I think, in my life.
Do you think being rebellious is purely just your personality, or do you think it's something bigger than that?
Bigger.
Bolder. Greater.
I definitely think it's personality, but I think it's also, I think it can be learned.
I think
it can be learned. Yeah.
I find that it's both. I think sometimes, and I just wrote, like, for me, some of it is about being in survival mode or fight mode all the time too. Like, I think you're more rebellious when you have to be like that.
I think for me, I've always been that way. I've been born that way. I think little on up, it was riding, racing bicycles at 3.5 years old, 4 years old, motorcycles at 4 or 5 years old. And it was always competitive for me. And, I was the kid jumping off the roof into the pool, and get yelled at, or
I can see that,
just doing crazy stuff, slingshots, BB guns, getting in trouble. Breaking bones. I think I was they knew who I was in the ER, at the local hospital. I was there like every other week, as a young kid. So, I've always been that way. Like, it's always been there.
You made me think of when I was a kid, I had these pellet guns. I had every gun, every kind of gun.
The pump ones where you pump it up.
They would hurt.
Those CO2 ones were crazy.
I would lay on my roof in camo gear. This is when I lived in Myerstown. I'd lay on my roof in camo gear with this gun. I would shoot at cars going by.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, my goodness.
I would shoot windows out of neighbors' houses, like down the street, so that they wouldn't know it was me. And then there was one time, I forget the guy's name. He lived like 4 houses down. He had this tree and these cats that were always around the yard. And there was birds everywhere. I would peck these birds over.
Yeah, I would get the birds.
Dead birds everywhere in his yard. And he's like, hey, Corey. And I'd play basketball at his house all the time. He's like, hey, He's like, you notice all these birds? He's like, and they're all like shot in the head. Like, oh my God. He's like, they look like they. I was like, yeah, it's probably your cat. He's like, nah, I don't think it's the cat. And he's looking at me. Never said, hey, it's you, but he knew it was me. I was on that roof, man, blasting everything I could blast with that damn gun. It's terrible. That's not a normal kid thing, though. Is that a normal kid thing?
I mean, we shot birds all the time too.
I won't even talk about. Well, yeah, we went on. There was like a. Oh man, I don't even want to. So my friend and I, a good close friend of mine, Wolfie, him and I were like in the headlines. It wasn't us; they had no idea. But for a BB gun spree that happened in Lebanon for like weeks straight. And we would just, we were hanging out of the windows of my car and shooting businesses like the big window panes.
Oh my God.
And shattering them out. Like it was terrible. I don't even know what was wrong with me when I was a kid. I sometimes feel like that's why I do so much now, like because of the bad karma, if that makes sense. Like,
dude, I had so much bad karma.
I think you're right. Like I try and do everything legit. We used to paintball when we were idiots. We'd throw snowballs at cars out of our like tree forts. And like when they drive by, you throw them up in the air and hope they land on them. I remember this one time, this old man got out of the car. He was furious. He came running in. All the kids like ran. They were shaking. One peed his pants. They were like 8 years old.
Yeah.
And but yeah, same thing with the paintball stuff. So,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, everyone always says, I'm gonna pay it forward, and I still feel like I'm paying back too.
Oh, I'm paying it back.
Like, I'm like, it's never a pay forward.
You're
for
paying
me.
it back with your kids, right? When your kids do dumb crap.
I think that, like, the other week, I had my basketball rim snap, which should have never happened because it's a big in-ground basketball hoop, and fell on my brand new Audi. And I don't even get mad when stuff like that happens because I'm like, I probably deserve that for something stupid I did when I was young.
I feel the exact same
way.
way.
I don't even feel guilty about, like, I don't feel like, why me? Because I'm like, I probably deserve that because I was such an asshole when I was younger. And I did something to somebody's property that I damaged. And this is like karma's way of coming back to me and being like, yeah, this is what it was like.
If you're listening to this, whoever you are, because there's a lot of you,
Yes.
I'm sorry. And please accept my apology because I was such an asshole.
I'm sorry, too.
Yeah,
I think we're all sorry.
we are all sorry.
I wanted to touch base on something that Lisa had said when we started this, just to kind of bring it back. I feel like society in general right now is moving towards a rebellious society in the fact that when we were younger, there was so much structure in society, right? You had to be a certain way. You had to do a certain thing. You had to take this path. You had to take that path. But if you look at like the opportunity that's out there now for the youth, to different ways to make money, like that you can pave your own way. None of that was available when we were younger. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like in general, I feel like that realness and that moving away from the corporate structure or the corporate look, I think that's more prevalent right now. Like, I know so many people in the last 5 years that, have become wildly successful in what they wanted to do. Like, never in the history, could you really make money like you can now doing whatever you want.
I think there's more opportunity than ever. You just have to have the mindset, and the will, and not, and be fearless, a little bit fearless in doing it. But I think if you want to do something and you work hard enough, you can do it. Like, the opportunities exist.
I think that's the appeal to us is kind of what I'm saying, right? Is that when you look at society, like, people see us and they're like, this is where things are going. Like, this is what I want to be a part of.
You know what else I like? I like when people look at me and they don't know. They're like, well, this guy, who's this guy? And yeah, I own with my partners, own a franchise company, which I'm looking at me, we don't look the part. You know what I mean? Right. And I like that. I like that we don't look the part.
Yeah, I play. Oh, go ahead.
And like you said, Rob, there's tons of younger people, stories that I hear, like starting shoe companies or clothing line companies, and with internet and social media, like they're blowing up overnight and becoming wildly successful influencers and everything else. So there's definitely, I think there's more opportunity now than there ever has been.
Yeah.
And going back to the education piece, information is more readily available too.
Oh, absolutely.
So it is so much easier to call bullshit on everyone's crap now than it was when we were younger.
Yeah, schools can't get away with that anymore.
And the speed of things, things can happen very, very quickly. Right. Everybody's so connected.
I think that's good and bad.
It is good and bad.
Yeah.
It definitely has its
You have to have balance.
negative
but-
connotation.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything has to have balance.
It's funny you said something, Corey, just a little bit ago about what people perceive of you. So I play this game. So when I'm out, I ask people, people will be like, what do you do? I'm like, what do you think I do? I get garbage truck driver.
Work on cars.
I get garbage truck. I got a garbage truck driver. I get like truck driver. I get like
Hell's Angel. Do
construction.
you get that one?
Yeah, no. But I mean, I do. I always get like those kind of things, and then I tell them, and they're like, "Oh, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then I mean, it's like you don't have to. I don't have to look a certain way, and I take that to heart. Like I'm very serious about that because I've always been someone that I never look at someone and judge them. I don't prejudge. I ask because you just never know, especially in today's world. Like, you know, I watch TikToks. It's a bad habit of mine sometimes at night.
It's my
and
favorite
I was
habit.
watching this one where, you know, this young kid who was a multi-millionaire TikToker is going to buy a supercar, right? And it was a Bugatti or something, I think. And the dude treated him like straight trash. Like they were trying to record it because this is how this guy makes his money. And he's trying to tell the salesman, like, hey, I'm going to buy this car, but I have to record the process to buy it. That's what I do, right? And the guy's like, no, you have to turn the camera off right now. So he literally left that dealership, went to another one and bought the like almost $1 million car.
Yeah.
But it's like that, you know, you never know, especially this day and age, like success doesn't have a certain look.
You know, speaking of all of that, I was on the plane where we were on our way to Orlando, Orlando office one time, and I got in conversation with this guy who looked like a regular guy, you know, and started talking. He's like, "Yeah, I'm here on business," and I was like, "Oh, cool. What do you do?" He's like, "You know, I go around the country, basically look at different markets, and I buy properties." I was like, "Awesome," you know. So I think he had like 300, 400 properties around the country, and looking at him, he just looked like a regular old dude, you know, not. And then we got into more conversation. He's like, "Yeah, my previous job, I worked for Sony." I was like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, what'd you do?" "I was the CFO for Sony Pictures."
Oh, that's wild.
I was like, "Really?" So I'm having this 2-hour conversation on the plane, and you know, in the line for car with this guy who you would have never known he was that like wildly successful in his life because he was so down to earth and real. So,
Yeah, that's cool. What it's about.
yeah.
Those are the people.
Why do I
like
always get stuck by like the old ladies that are drunk at 9:30 in the morning
Oh, I remember
that want
that.
to talk to
I
me for
remember
2.5 hours on the flight down to Orlando
I remember that.
when I'm exhausted from being at the airport at 4 in the morning?
I've been super lucky lately, like on flights. Like I haven't had anyone that wants to talk to me. It's super cool. I love that. Just leave me alone.
Put your headphones in and close your eyes, turn your head. Yeah.
Yeah, just leave me alone. Like I'm just trying to enjoy this 2 hours of peace.
I mean,
Sorry, I think we digressed again.
No, it was good.
It's
But
okay.
I guess we're
it's
not.
all
Yeah,
good
that's what we're doing.
digression. So, we've talked a lot about some of our stories. Do you guys have one particular like core memory that signifies your rebellious streak?
Yeah, I mean, it's my whole life. I'm not trying to be
everything.
funny, but it
No.
literally is
Yeah.
my whole life when I was
Like
a
everything
kid.
I've done,
Yeah.
my whole life has been rebellious. Done a lot of stupid stuff.
Okay, so here's a question. You've heard and seen a lot. Obviously, we've talked about that, right? What is the worst thing someone has called you or said about you because of your rebellious nature?
Ooh.
I can go back to kindergarten. I'm not kidding.
Okay,
Wow.
let's hear it.
So
Everything you learn in
Interesting.
kindergarten.
kindergarten teacher, her name was Mrs. Jones. And Mrs. Jones was a racist bitch. I'm going to be honest. She was a racist bitch.
Fuck Mrs. Jones.
Fuck Mrs. Jones for real.
Where you
So,
at, Mrs. Jones?
She was at
Coming for
Harding
you.
Elementary School in Lebanon, and I hope you hear this. I don't think you're even alive anymore. But she said to me at one point, "You're never going to amount to anything." She used to lock me in the closet.
Oh, wow.
Or
She
you
used to hit me with blocks. She was mean, man.
That's
Mean
crazy.
lady. She made me hate school from the door. I mean, I'm talking from
back when we could still get spanked at school.
Oh, she would.
Yeah, for
she
sure.
literally would lock me in the closet. She was the worst person. And I later in life, Dana. You know Dana?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had her as a teacher, and same thing was going on with him. So she
Wow.
didn't like brown
She
people.
didn't like brown people.
And I mean, it goes back to that. And she said, I remember her saying to me, "You're never going to amount to anything. You know, you're." And she even brought up the color at one point. You know, somewhere along the way. So that's my biggest. And I was always a rebel in
Yeah.
her. I was always doing. I actually bit her. I bit her in the ankle one day. I was working on. I was doing these matching things or something, and she's like, "Well, that's wrong," and she hit me with a block, and I went literally bit her in the ankle, and those old stockings, those that went up to like their knees.
Yeah.
I literally bit her in the ankle. I was an ankle biter. Yeah,
That's crazy.
That's
I would say for me, actually, my defining moment and the reason I started getting into business for myself was, so I used to run a nightclub called Level 2. So I was in the bar and restaurant industry my whole life, and it's honestly a thankless business. It's far and few between that you find an owner in that business that really appreciates the work that you put in, and you put a lot of work in. And I was in it, like 90-hour work weeks, like I treated it like it was my business, right? So Level 2. So and rest in peace to the old owner of Level 2. He passed away, but him and I didn't really see eye to eye, and I really, and not just saying this, but I really turned his place around. And I put a ton of work into it, and I made it wildly successful. And through that, I developed a relationship with a really good DJ, one of the most talented DJs I've ever in my life. And I'm not going to call him out because this is kind of about him. So him and I developed this really great friendship, and I got in a huge argument with the owner of Level 2, and I quit. And I was making really good money. I was there for 3.5 years, and I'll never forget. He told me, he was like, "That's the biggest mistake of your life." He was like, "You're never going to have a better opportunity than running that place." Right. And it did a couple things for me. One, it made me feel like I'm never, ever going to do that for someone else again. I'm never going to make money for someone else and make them successful if it doesn't directly benefit me. Right. And then the other part of it was, oh, I can't wait to crush it and let this dude see who I really am, because I think people thought that Level 2 made me and not me making Level 2, right? There was some good foundation there, obviously, that I didn't create, but it was my hard work, effort, and drive, and putting really great people in place around me that made that place successful. So after that was it. I opened up a nightclub in Penn State for some guys, but I told them it was on my terms. Then I opened my own bar. And then I got into real estate and did my own thing. So that was the driving force for me to say, you know what, fuck working for other people, and fuck giving people the opportunity to say, I made you and you're nothing without me. So that was it for me.
Adam, you got one? You got anything?
You go ahead. I'll clean up.
You'll clean. You'll clean up.
I actually wanted to piggyback off of that, but you go first.
No, go ahead. Piggyback.
No, because you made me think about business, and I was thinking life.
But it's all the same.
It is all the same.
Yeah.
But for me, the car business was my years of putting the time in and making money for other people, and being told to be content. Making $60,000 a year. Not that that's a bad living, but at the time, having a family, 60, 70 grand. The most I ever made in the car business was, I think, 99,000 or something like that one year. And being told that you're not going to be able to do it outside of this, you're not going to be successful outside of this. Oh, you're not, you can't leave here, and got to the point where I was tired of making money for other people. I had a deal. It was a mini deal. I was working for 2 weeks. A mini deal is basically it was a new car. You get paid $250 for this deal. And it was 2 weeks in, I lost the deal over $100. My sales manager lost the deal for me over $100, and that $100 and that last deal would have also put me into my next pay level where I would have. So he did it because he was being a dick, basically. And at that point, I was like, I'm done. He's like, you're not going anywhere. I was like, I'm done, and I left. So that was the end of it for me. I also never wanted to make money for anyone else ever again, and that's why I got into real estate.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's crazy.
Sorry.
No, why are you apologizing?
I'm sorry
Do
for
not
my story
apologize
in my
for
life.
being yourself. Stories are good.
That's all we have are stories.
I mean, that's what makes us who we are, right? I have a couple random, I don't know. I think if I think about a comment I heard, and this was actually when I was working at Vanguard, I remember somebody saying to me I was demasculating my husband because of my success.
Oh, wow.
And I think that, I was like, how is that even, I don't understand. Why would you even say that? And it took me a couple of years to
Well, maybe they felt like that.
Apparently, it must have been demasculating them because it was a man who said it to me. So I don't know.
Knowing your husband, I'm pretty sure he would have been like, "Hey, make as much money as you can."
Yeah,
that's okay.
I mean, he says that.
I want to be a stay-at-home dad. Yeah.
I don't think you can demasculinize Justin.
He's pretty masculine, right?
Yeah, he is.
So, like that one, and then I remember this one's kind of funny, but kind of also awful. Like, I had a mom call me a Jezebel once.
Oh,
which was weird. Like,
it
was when I was in college, which
okay.
is funnier part. And I'm like, I don't understand where that's coming from either. And I mean, I know I have a lot of friends, and sure, I date a lot of guys, but it's not like I'm out there. Yeah. So that was an interesting comment.
It's always funny, having daughters now with what you just said, where, going through life when you're young and you do, whatever guys do, it's fine.
Yeah.
Guys can be
for sure
with as many partners as they want, but as soon as a girl does it, then they're a whore, they're this, they're that, whatever.
Yeah.
Having daughters, that it just changes your perspective completely on all of that. So that sucks.
It's insane but to your point, I mean, that's how it is, right? Like, women are treated very differently for who they are. You're not allowed to do anything, right? I think you look at it though too. I had a lot of older men that would like hit on me. Like, I worked for Arby's when I was a kid, and it was interesting. This was the 90s, and the Arby's that I worked at had touch screen ordering, which nowadays that's what's everywhere. We were like, people would walk in and be like
space age.
Why are you letting us?
Advanced,
They were totally advanced on this. I'm like, just order your food on the screen. I'll get it for you, whatever. I had a boss who was in his 30s. He showed up at my house.
Oh,
Ooh, that's creepy.
And he was married with kids because he just liked the way I looked, and he wanted to spend time with me. I'm like, you need to leave.
Jesus.
So those are the things that
girls get to deal
girls
with.
get to experience.
I mean, hearing
sometimes.
stuff that my daughters tell me, and even going to the gym with them,
Right.
and doing my own workout,
Yeah.
but watching dudes. There was one of the guys the other day. We were there, and Rainey was doing squats. She's over here. I was on the bench, and I'm looking over at this guy who works there, and he's just like leaning. I'm leaning on a machine right now, and he's just staring directly at her butt. So I'm letting it go, and I'm letting it go, and I'm letting it go, and it was a good 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Finally, I went over. I was like, "Hey, man, like, what are you looking at?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm nothing." He's like, "I'm just spacing out." I'm like, "Okay." I just wondered because that's my daughter over there. You know? I try not to be that guy, but
you should have just gone
hard,
and stood like right in front of
her
him and started doing deadlifts or something.
Should have started
have all your junk
pushing my
hanging
butt
out.
out. I should have started pushing my butt out. That would have been great.
Giving him a good show there, Corey.
Anyhow, you missed a little bit.
I missed it. I'm sorry.
We were talking about me being called a Jezebel. Oh, and demasculating Justin. That was the other piece.
Yeah, he's not very masculine, so I could see that. I'm just kidding, Justin. That's my dude.
What about Adam? Did you come up with anything?
Oh, yeah.
Come on, clean
plenty
up,
to talk about here.
Clean up,
Wow.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm a man of many words, right?
We should take this further.
Further.
Yeah, let's expound
take it
further on this.
I think
Expand.
I think for me is, I've always been competitive, and at nature that's been my rebellious background. And fourth grade I moved to a new school, so that was a new environment. Do you want me to use that, Corey? I can use the filter on the mic. Is that your ADD kicking in a little bit?
We're getting
We're
deep
getting
into
there.
this.
Just go.
Getting things flying at my head over here. But no, I think for me is, throughout high school, getting in trouble and having my problems, I think a lot of people looked at me as somebody that would just end up in the system again and would never amount to anything. And, I remember a teacher telling my dad that, hey, this guy, your son, he ain't going to amount to anything, good luck. Basically it was. And, and my dad told me that. And I think at the time, I think he felt kind of powerless, that it was out of his control too, because my parents were divorced, and there was only so much he could do from afar. He didn't have custody of me, and I think he was a little embarrassed, and I got to the point where that wasn't me, and I knew that all along, and I wanted to change that aspect of me. So and I struggled on my own to prove that I am capable of doing something, and I'm not going to let other people's opinions of me stop me from doing what I want to do. And, that's been a driving force, I think, from day one. And it's also been humbling, and I think too, I think everybody should experience some service sector type of job coming out of school,
100%.
because you get to see the way the real world is, and having to provide that level of service to customers. And when things don't go right, you're going to take heat and get criticized, and people aren't all nice and cheery to you. They're going to be rude and whatnot. And me bartending while going through college, I think was a good eye opener to say, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life.
And
I want to
serving, bartending, any of those jobs are great
absolutely
to cut your teeth on. That's sales 101, man.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Yeah,
Everybody says it. It's like a big thing. Everybody should do 1 year of service industry right out of high school.
Yeah, and it was a major motivating factor for me to push myself to go outside of the norm of the 9-to-5 job, to work for something extra in my life and build my own kind of legacy. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And that's what motivates me to get up in the morning, and I enjoy it. So,
Man, you're fucking sexy.
You're doing such a great job, Adam. We're so proud of you.
oh, thank you. I got it deep down somewhere.
No, you're killing it.
We know you do.
Super killing it.
I love you.
We love you. We all love each other.
I love you.
I love you, Adam.
There's lots of love in the room.
So much love.
I think so. Basically, what we're saying is you can come from garbage. I'm speaking for myself, and not that my family was garbage, but you can come from nothing.
Do you guys hear that?
You can come from nothing and work your butt off to get where you need to be.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, I mean, everybody here knows, but I was a heroin addict at one point in my life. Yeah. Being that made me appreciate life every day, and also made me want to work even harder, because I remember someone saying to me one time, or more than one time, "You're never going to make it. You're never going to do anything." All of those conversations and those comments have driven me every day to get better. I still have a long way to go, but I mean, I'm trying every day, and I think that's what it's about.
But I think that's the key. Like, we always have a long way to go. Yeah. We only get better if we keep working at it.
Always room for improvement.
Always.
Room.
I'll touch the mic with my lips.
I'm touching. I am too. Did you hear? I'm getting louder.
It makes me feel special.
ASMR.
ADD kicking in.
Oh, it's happening right now. Yeah, I'm jumping through my skin.
Do you remember in school I used to throw like pencils and pens, like this 7th, 8th grade, I just couldn't sit still at all. And like we would throw stuff at the teachers when they weren't watching. I did that in 7th grade one time. And the teacher asked every single kid, "Did you throw the pen? Did you throw the pen?" And they went down the row.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. It was a substitute teacher.
You guys were probably the ones that were pulling girls' hair too.
I got a good story. I never pulled girls' hair.
Yeah,
Spitballs. Let me tell you a spitball story.
Yeah, spitballs.
So Mr. Han, he was a Japanese, or maybe that's mean. I think he was Japanese. So he was my environmental science teacher, and everybody was spitting spitballs, the little spitballs. And I'm like, watch this. And I took like 3 pieces of paper and shoved them in my mouth. And started to get it,
Of course you did.
Of course, I'm gonna show everybody up.
Yeah.
And I took this sopping wet, there was a video going on, and I threw it as hard as I could at the board. Splattered, dude! It splattered everywhere, all over Mr. Han. He's like, "Who did that? Who did that?" And everybody's quiet, and I'm sitting there trying not to laugh and then people behind me were pointing. It's Corey. Got sent to the principal's office again. I lived there. I pretty much lived there.
Did you have paddles? I mean, seriously, they were still hitting kids when I was in school.
No, there was no paddle then. I did get thrown up against a wall more than once, but
me too.
I was in. This is a great story. I'm going to be done with my stories after this. So middle school, I think 7th grade, I had an M80. So back in the day, M80s were a thing, and there was these big, firecrackers, right?
Yeah.
So the lunch monitors, everybody get quiet. Everybody get quiet. No one's getting quiet. It's loud as heck. And I'm sitting there with my buddies. I'm like,
no, you didn't set an M80 off.
Watch this. I'm going to light it. And I had the lighter, flick the lighter, and I'm going, like I'm pretending to light it. And I lit it.
Yeah.
So I have this thing in my hand. I have a lighter in the other hand. I'm like, what am I going to do? So I just threw it on the table in front of me.
Oh.
Boom. Everybody, you could have heard a pin drop in there. It got so silent. Everybody was like, what the heck was that? There's this smoke rising around me. I got stuff all over me, and I have a lighter in my hand. Someone threw it at me with the lighter in my hand.
Wow.
Someone threw it at me.
Yeah.
That principal, his name was Dr. Du Bois. He had me up against the wall in his office, and I had to eat for 30 days. I was suspended for 4 days. I had to eat for 30 days standing up in his office.
Wow.
Yeah,
you deserve that.
I did deserve it. And I saw him 20 years later.
Yeah.
And he's like, Mr. Kaplan.
You remember?
I'm like, wow, he remembers me.
He remembered.
Yeah, he remembered that.
That's crazy.
Today, man, you'd probably go to jail for that in school.
Oh,
or get
now
kicked out
you
of
can't
school.
do. Oh my God, yeah, that would be a wrap.
Well, and I was thinking about this the other day because all these shootings have been going on. But when I was in school, we were getting bomb threats all the time, which you don't hear about anymore. But I know how many times we got kicked out of school because there was a bomb threat called.
Yeah, and most of the time it was some idiot that really didn't want to go to school.
Just didn't want to go to
Right.
school.
Come
They had
on,
finals or something.
Yeah.
Didn't want
what
to take
it
them.
was. Yeah.
Right.
It's not like you could trace calls like that back then. So on our rotary phones.
So we had paddles still. Like elementary school, you got paddled, and then when you got to middle school, the paddle had holes in it. So you
Middle
got
school?
Yeah, that's how that. It was
I would have
still
pitied
like
the
that
fool
when I
that
was
tried
in
to
school.
paddle me in middle school.
Yeah.
There would have been fighting.
Yeah, I would have been rumbling. Nobody would have touched me. No way.
I was not one to get paddled. I was good. So, but
I would have gotten paddled if we had to. They would have at least
Beaten.
tried. I was always in
I would have
trouble.
been paddled every day.
Yeah.
Probably in 7th and 8th grade.
Nobody would have touched me.
I mean, I did, get my education in the fine state of Florida. So that's probably where the difference was. But
I mean, I'll be honest though, like that's 90% of the problem. I think right now is
There maybe should be more paddling in
Kids,
school.
maybe not paddling, but there
No.
needs to be some
More
kind of
discipline
discipline.
of
Like
some
kids
sort.
are not. There's no accountability for kids anymore. It's wild. Parents are like, I don't understand. Because you let little Johnny do whatever he wants. That's why.
Because little Johnny's an asshole.
Yeah. Because you got him a $1,200 phone at 10 years old and let him run and do whatever he wants. Like that's why little Johnny's being an asshole.
Yep.
it is funny though, like you think about what rebellion looks like today versus back in the day. Like, so in middle school, my class of 94, you guys rock. We used to sing, you got to know when to hold them in the cafeteria as a group in the middle of the day. So everyone thought our class was going to be the worst class to graduate high school. So when we went from 8th grade to 9th grade, they hired all these extra teachers in my high school because they needed to handle my class.
I don't even think anybody in my school would have known that song.
I know.
I'm just thinking about that.
But the reality is that was what we were rebellious as a class because we would do that. And you're like, but that's not what people
That's
think
really
our
not
rebellious
rebellious.
is.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny how it's changed.
That's wild.
All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to our third podcast, and we hope you guys have a great week.
Tuning in.
Hey,
Thanks for the tune
you know
in.
what we'd
Thank
really
you for
appreciate right
tuning
now?
in.
Go out and like our podcast.
Yeah,
Give
like-
us some
like and
comments
share
and
that.
feedback.
Yeah,
share it. We'd love to get some feedback so we can talk about
We're on
things you
Apple
want to
too
hear.
right now, Apple Music. We're
Tell us if
everywhere.
we suck or not.
Yeah, we
Be honest.
appreciate that.
Yeah, you can tell us.
Leave it in the comments.
Let us know what you want to hear from us too.
We have big
For sure.
shoulders.
Yeah,
And no friends.
no friends.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Later.
Later.